My mom told me to leave, so I did. Watch how she loses everything. This happened when I was 15. My mom was, let's be real, she probably still is, a mentally, emotionally, and physically abusive narcissist. Some highlights are when she was teaching my twin sister and I to read at the age of 4 or so. It was around 2 a.m. and my sister was having trouble learning, so my mother's solution was to beat her with a sandal every time she got a flashcard wrong. Same thing happened when my mother had me transcribe an essay she had written to my handwriting when I was 7. Every time I started a letter from the wrong position, like starting a capital M from the bottom line, she would beat me with one of her Birkenstocks. This too happened later at night, so when I got too delirious for the exhaustion and pain, she would drag me, by the neck, and literally throw me into a cold shower to wake me up so we could more easily continue the waking nightmare. When I was 13, I told her to wanted to live with my dad. They were divorced, and she told me she didn't care what I did after I turned 18. I later figured out that this was because the child support stopped at age 18. Anywho, fast forward to age 15. Our relationship was understandably strained. We had guests and she liked to use guests as a way of controlling our behavior through shame. It's easier to be an angsty teenager when your grown-up friends from church aren't watching and judging everything you do. This make it easier for her to pretend to be a firm but loving mother, all while slipping in sideways comments like velvet daggers. Well, I decided I wasn't going to subject myself to the whole thing and spent the day outside in the woods nearby. We lived in the mountains at the time, so it was less than 100 from the house. When I saw our guests had left, I went to go back inside. My mother, perhaps unhappy at being denied a day-long emotional abuse routine, told me I wasn't welcome and that I should leave. My 15-year-old brain heard her words and knew that she only meant for a little while, but it also recognized that failed to specify any time frame at all. So, I hiked a couple miles to a friend's house and asked if I could spend a couple days there. When my friend's dad found out that I was there and why, he was pissed and said I could stay as long as I needed. I didn't go home that evening, or the next. My mom became concerned and contacted law enforcement, to report me missing. This is a big deal for several reasons. We lived in the mountains on a national park, so it was a very real possibility that I had been attacked by a wild animal, become injured while hiking, drowned, or been kidnapped. Nobody knew of my mother's abusive tendencies or the squalor and neglect my sister and I lived in. Most importantly, the law enforcement was the local park rangers with which she worked daily. La immediately contacted my dad's side of the family to see if I had turned up there or contacted them. They promptly freaked the crap out and came to my house with lawyers on standby. La then hired dogs to track my scent, and then everyone freaked out because the dogs tracked me to a nearby river where my trail died because the dogs couldn't pick up any more scent. Over the next couple days there were people going in and out of my house, rangers, lawyers, my family, etc., and several noticed the overpowering scent of cleaning chemicals, but only the lawyer considered why a clean house would reek of chemicals. La started to canvass the nearby woods and neighborhood. My friend's dad came to me and asked if there was somewhere else I could stay. He told me that he wouldn't kick me out, didn't want to have to lie to the police or let the dogs on his property. My friend and I figured we'd just go camping for a week or so, but instead I looked up my dad's side of the family and called, and they picked me up right away. Understandably, everyone had questions. When I told them what was happening, the lawyers, horrified, pounced. A judge issued an emergency change of custody and prevented her from gaining custody until she underwent a psych eval and therapy, which my mother would never allow. The rangers, equally horrified, completely shunned my mother and she eventually lost her job, since she was only allowed to live on the park because she worked there, so she was kicked out of her house. My friend's father and the trackers were members of the local community and churches, and they too shunned my mother. She lost her job, her house, her church, and her friends, all because she told me to leave, and I did.